All right, man, peace. So for those of you brothers who follow boxing, you know that there's a relatively major boxing event coming up this weekend. I say relatively because I don't think that the conclusion of the bout is in doubt by anyone who follows the sport. Errol Spence, who is the current IBF welterweight champion, and who is also seen as pretty much the brightest light in the welterweight division right now, not named Terrence Crawford. He's going to be staging a welterweight showcase bout against an up-and-coming Mexican fighter by the name of Ocampo. I've been able to watch a couple of Ocampo's fights in the last few days. He has a rather rudimentary style. He should not be much of a problem for Errol Spence. I don't think that he's going to have anywhere near the power and skill that it's going to take to keep Errol Spence off of him. I've seen that Ocampo does like to use his feet, so that may cause him to last a couple of more rounds than one might expect, especially if he has survival skills and a relatively good chin. But I do think that Errol Spence is going to be able to land the lead right hook, especially after the first or second round, because one thing that Ocampo does do, he drops his left hand after he throws out the jab. Also watch for lead straight lefts from Errol Spence to the solar plexus of Ocampo to his body. And we all know that Errol Spence likes to work the body. So why do I call this a relatively major boxing event? It's because this is a showcase fight for Mr. Errol Spence, and all great fighters have showcase fights, contrary to the narratives that are often propagated and perpetuated on the internet from casual boxing fans who think that they're hardcore boxing aficionados. All great fighters have showcase fights. Muhammad Ali had them, Sugar Ray Robinson had them, Sugar Ray Leonard had them. The only fighter who pretty much was not allowed to have showcase fights after he rose to prominence was Floyd Mayweather. And what's interesting and ironic about that is that he's often the fighter that people allege ducked great fighters in his career. But when you look at Floyd Mayweather Jr.'s history, his resume of fighters, he pretty much fought world champions all the way from Carlos Baldomir pretty much to Manny Pacquiao. He wasn't allowed to have any showcase fights. But this is a great event for Errol Spence. It'll give him the opportunity to fight in front of his hometown fans. And this is the first real showcase fight that he's gotten since he was first able to attain the IBF welterweight championship belt by defeating Kell Brook in England. The reason why this is a major boxing event is that it's going to precipitate a major showdown for the WBC belt after Errol presumably defeats Ocampo, and is going to fight the winner of the Sean Porter versus Danny Garcia fight. So I expect that bout to happen very late in the year this year, most likely sometime around November or December, or maybe early next year, January or February. We'll see what happens. I also find it very interesting that recently Terrence Crawford and Errol Spence have made a show of levying these little verbal volleys back and forth against each other over the internet in regards to them claiming that they're looking out for the other fighter. Of course, they're trying to build up some type of demand for the fight right now. I don't think that it takes much building up. I think that all of us who follow boxing are awaiting that bout. It's truly what boxing needs, and it's also going to provide us with some clarity over who's going to be the transcendent fighter in that weight class. But right now, just getting back to this fight, I think that Ocampo is going to try very hard early to box Errol Spence and use his length. But I think that he's going to find that when he's in the ring with a fighter of the caliber of Errol Spence, with the conditioning that Errol Spence has, as well as the power, that by about round 3, he's going to be willing to give up. Unless he truly believes that he can win, which most fighters do not truly believe that they can win against upper level competition, against championship level fighters. They get in there and they feel the power, they see the skills, and they say, you know what, I'll just live to fight another day. And I think that that's going to happen to Mr. Ocampo within 4 rounds. So as of right now, my official prediction will be Errol Spence by stoppage, TKO in the 4th round, most likely due to body shots. That's how I see this fight going. Why do I say that? Because Ocampo is a conventional fighter, and he's also a little bit taller than Errol, which will necessitate Errol trying to break him down to the body more. That's why I state, watch for a lot of straight left hands to the body of Ocampo, especially around the second round. First round will most likely be a feel-out round for Errol. Second round, he's going to try to hit him with straight left leads to the body, right hooks to the body as well. Errol's going to test his own jab, most likely around early part of the second round. Try to go to the body. He'll see if he can finish him in the third round, most likely get a knockdown in the third round, and then officially stop him in the fourth. I don't think that it's going to take long. But what this bout will do is it will build up his fan base in Dallas, which is a major metropolitan area. And I think that it's good that Al Heyman and the team are working on building up Errol Spence's fan base because he deserves it. He really is a very exciting fighter. Reminds me a lot of Marvin Hagler. And of course, we're waiting for that major fight between Errol and Terrence Crawford, which I'm hoping for sometime next year. Hopefully, in the meantime, we'll get a Terrence Crawford versus Keith Thurman bout. Who knows? Thurman still has the WBA strap. And I would love to see Keith Thurman and Terrence Crawford square up. Because who knows? Keith may beat Terrence. Keith is a very good boxer himself with great power. And I don't think that Terrence Crawford has truly been tested in a while. I think that he's gotten in there with very good champions, but he hasn't been in there with a class boxer. And I think that Terrence Crawford is a non-perennial boxer right now in all of boxing. I think that the only boxer who brings the wrinkles that Terrence Crawford brings into the ring is Lomachenko. And of course, unfortunately, they're in two separate weight classes and they can't fight one another. But I think that the Keith Thurman bout is going to bring out the best in Terrence Crawford, or it may bring out his flaws. So we'll see if they can make that fight in the interim of building up Terrence Crawford versus Errol Spence. But this is going to be a big-time fight. Once again, I have Errol Spence stopping Mr. Ocampo in the fourth round, a TKO, and most likely a couple of knockdowns of Ocampo in the third round. Peace.